Hi, sweet friends, welcome back. And if you're new here, hi, my name is Amy and welcome. Do you have some old furniture pieces that you'd like to renew and refresh and maybe just give them a little TLC to update them? Well, today I'll be sharing with you 2 easy do-it-yourself projects to update your furniture on a budget. First, we'll be recushioning our flat and dingy seat cushions for our kitchen, and then we'll be transforming our old, dated, scuffed up end tables into a beautiful, chic farmhouse look. So if you're interested in seeing how these projects turn out, be sure to keep on watching, hit that like and subscribe button for me, and let's get straight into today's video. Reupholstering the seat of a chair is one of the easiest and most budget-friendly ways to make a big change with little effort. Now, as you can see here, our kitchen chairs are still very sturdy. All they need is a new cushion to bring them back to the comfortable chair they once were. So first step is to turn the chair upside down and unscrew the seat from the frame. Now you may also encounter a tack strip that holds the seat to the frame. So in that case, all you need to do is just to pry the seat off with a flathead screwdriver. Next, I'm removing the cloth seat cover that I purchased from Amazon, which I'll have linked down below, and setting that aside for later. Now it's time to remove that old dingy fabric. Now you'll see here that I have to remove 2 layers because I actually reupholstered these chairs once before without removing the original fabric. So that's also an option if your padding is still in great shape. To remove the old fabric, all you have to do is turn the seat over and use a staple remover, or what I had on hand was a flathead screwdriver, to pry up and remove all the staples. And let me warn you, there are going to be a ton of them. Now, if the staples are stubborn, go ahead and use some needle nose pliers and pull them out. One tip that I did find very useful was to use the pliers to pull on the fabric itself, and that way it loosened the staples enough to then pry them up more easily. Now this tip really did save me tons of time for this tedious job, so definitely try that out if you're trying to reupholster your seats and see if that works better for you. Make sure to save both pieces of seat fabric, the outer layer, which was that white top fabric that is used to finish everything off so it looks nice and neat, as well as the seat cover fabric. Now these will be used later as your pattern for the new pieces. So here is how it's looking so far. I've already removed all the fabric, all the staples are removed. And so here's a quick look at the foam. It is really nasty and disintegrating, so I definitely need to replace the cushion padding. The foam I'll be using is from Amazon, and I'll have it linked down below for you, but it's called Go-To Foam. It's 2 inches high by 24 inches wide and 84 inches long, so you will be able to get 4 chairs out of this, and I got it for $36, so I think that's a great price for repurposing your chairs. It is supposed to last 7 to 10 years, and it has a 44-pound compression, so it is ideal for furniture cushions as well as other upholstery applications. And as you see, my trusty assistant Nyla approves. The next step is to take your seat as a template, trace around it, and cut your foam, making sure to cut about 3/8 of an inch larger than your seat. And another tip is to angle your cut just slightly so that it is larger on top than it is on the bottom. Moving right along, it's time to cut your padding. Now you can cut it with a sharp pair of scissors, but I did find this a little difficult. So I had read that you could use a serrated knife, so I grabbed a steak knife and it worked pretty well. Now I do think if you had an electric bread knife, it would cut through this like butter, so definitely give that a try if you happen to have that. Also, please be careful when you're cutting. Make sure you cut away from yourself always, and be aware what is underneath of your knife. I definitely do not want anyone getting injured trying to cut your foam. Once I had everything cut, I did go back with my scissors to even up and make everything look nice and neat. Now we're going to add some quilt batting. This is a very important step, so do not skip over this because this is going to give you that professional, comfortable fit with rounded and smooth finishes. The polyester quilt batting that I'll be using is again from Amazon for $22, and it came as 24 by 5 yards, and it is upholstery grade. Now keep in mind this amount allowed me to do all 4 of my chairs. So next you're going to take that fabric that you removed from your seat cushion and use that as a template to cut around so you know that it will fit perfectly around your seat cushion. Now, as you're going to see, I'm not going to be adding a new layer of seat fabric. Instead, I'll be using that old seat cover from Amazon because I like the versatility of it being able to be removed and thrown into the laundry and have it come out nice and clean. Now that everything is cut and ready, it's basically time to assemble your chair. First, you take your seat platform and spray it with this 3M multi-purpose adhesive. Now you can find this in your glue section at Walmart. That's where I picked mine up. Then you're going to secure that foam so that it's not slipping and sliding around. So once the glue has sit for approximately 30 seconds, and is still tacky but it doesn't come off in your finger, that's when you'll place down your foam. Next, you'll center the batting and flip it over. Then you're going to take a staple gun with some staples and start to staple that batting along the edges of your seat. It's important to keep everything nice and tight, so you're going to first place a staple at the top and then the bottom, and then from the left and right, working your way around the sides, leaving your corners till last. Remember, if you're adding fabric to your chair, this would also be placed at this step and wrapped around, and then they would be stapled down at the same time. When you are doing your corners, just make sure you keep everything nice and tight. Don't be afraid to use tons of staples here because I think this is where it really needs it. But you're just going to pull real tight and even pleat the batting so that it lays nice and flat. And then anything that is excess over about a ½ inch, you're just going to trim away. So here is what it looks like once we have stapled all the batting around the chair form. To keep everything looking nice and professional, we're now going to take that upper fabric that we removed and set aside to trace on the material that was surrounding the foam. This keeps everything super neat and prevents the batting from loosening up and becoming frayed. Plus, we're using all the packaging material that came around the foam, so there's actually no waste. So here's a look at this completed step, and I just think this finishes off and looks super nice. This project is almost finished, so now all we need to do is put the seat covers back on and attach the seat cushion to the frame. I'll first mark and drill a pilot hole for the placement of the new screw holes, and then I can't wait to show you the dramatic results of this DIY budget-friendly upgrade for our old kitchen chairs. Okay, so here is how the seat recushioning turned out. I think it looks amazing. As you can see, the one on the left is so much more visually appealing than the one on the right. We now have a plush and comfortable seat instead of the flat and hard original one. All that's left to do is, of course, test it out. Plus, I wanted to give you a close-up look at the foam. As you can see, there isn't an impression left, so it rebounds quickly, which is exactly what you want in a quality seat cushion. It's nice and firm and comfortable too. So here is how the new cushion chairs look around our kitchen table. Everyone has been super happy about it, and every time they sit down they go, ooh, nice and comfy. So I'm super glad that I took on this task. It was super easy and cheap, and if you have this to do, I would encourage you to go ahead and try it and let me know if this was helpful. Now we're moving on to the next project, which I am super excited about, and that is to transform this old, dated, scuffed up end table into a beautiful, chic farmhouse one. As you can see, it's seen its better days. It has lots of scuffs, and I'm thinking that the top is veneer, so I'm hoping it will sand out and look good. And then for the bottom, I'm thinking of chalk painting it like a chiffon cream, which is like the farmhouse hutch that I did not too long ago, which I'm totally in love with. So I'm just hoping that this project goes as smoothly as it did. So first things first, I'm going to grab my sander and just sand away on the top. As I was sanding, my first impression was, wow, the sandpaper is really taking it down to the original wood. However, after wiping it down, you'll see that it was mostly dust. So I did go over it several times with the sander, wiping it down in between. And so you do have the option of using a paint and varnish stripper, which I didn't want to do because I was inside that day. The weather was not good, and so I didn't want those harsh, stinky fumes inside our garage. So I did opt to just do the long and tedious process of sanding, which did take a little bit more time, but in the end, it turned out just fine. Once the top was done, it was time to work on the edges, and they were a little bit more difficult, so I grabbed a smaller sanding mouse with a finer grit sandpaper and then just carefully sanded the edges to maintain that detail. Then, when I couldn't get into the tight spaces, I took a chisel with a sanding paper piece and kind of run along that, and then at the end, I just went along with just the chisel to get the remaining stain off. Once that was complete, it was time to prep the legs and shelf for the chalk paint. So I made sure to just wash down everything really good. And if your surface is super shiny, you may want to run over it with a fine grit sandpaper just to make sure that the chalk paint will adhere really well to it. Another thing I'll be doing is removing the hardware from the drawer so that I can spray paint that a bronze just so that it coordinates well with the other finishes in our home. Like I mentioned before, I'll be using the Rust-Oleum chalk paint. It's ultra matte and it's in that chiffon cream color. And I'll just be using an angled 2-inch brush to paint the legs and the shelf of the end table. What I find works best when chalk painting is to work in sections and to also paint in the direction of the wood grain. Chalk paint, as compared to other paint, really does show your brush strokes, so I like to keep everything running in the same direction. And because I prefer a more uniform look, I'll be applying 2 coats, allowing about an hour drying time between them. Another tip I have for you is to set your furniture piece up on something. Here I'm just using 4-gallon size cans. I put a little paper towel on top so that when I do touch down and paint there, that the top of the can is still nice and neat. And I think that just helps you to get the underneath pieces so that if you're ever laying down and looking at your furniture, you're not going to see places where it's not painted. So always remember to finish out your piece, go underneath, and really get those areas that might be seen if you're laying on the floor. So here is what it looks like after the first coat. Now you could definitely stop here if you like that more rustic look, but like I said, I like a more uniform finish, so I'll be applying a total of 2 coats. For this piece, I'm going to go ahead and paint the inside of the drawer. Now you could definitely skip this, but I kind of like the look when you pull out the drawer that it is just a complete look and it looks like the rest of the furniture piece. But for the drawer itself, I'm only going to be using 1 coat, but I'm going to really try to make sure the brush strokes are covered. And definitely for the front, I'll be doing a 2 coat to match the rest of the piece. Okay, so here's how the end table looks now after 2 coats of the chalk paint. So now we need to work on changing the look of the hardware by spray painting that drawer pull. To do that, I'll be using the Rust-Oleum Universal in the hammered bronze. Now this is a dark bronze color and it's going to give it that hammered look, which I think is just a little extra detail that will be beautiful. So I'm just going to give this a quick coat of paint and let it dry before installing it. Now it's time to work on protecting the top that we worked so hard to return to its original wood color. Now I opted to use this clear wax from Jolie, and I'll be using this brush to apply it with, and then I'll finish up by polishing it with a lint-free white cloth. Now there is a bit of learning curve when it comes to working with wax. Now, I'm no expert, but this is the technique that I use. So first, I just kind of swirl my bristles into the wax and apply about that much. Then I'll return my brush to the surface and I'm going to be working in circles and in sections. For the size of this end table, I'll probably work in 8 by 8 inch sections, making sure to just keep going in circular motions and working it deep into the grain of the wood. A tip that I have for you when working with wax is when you're applying it in circular motions, really try to focus on the feel of the bristles sliding along the surface of the wood. If it is nice and smooth and moving freely, you can move on to your next section. But if it is still tacky and dragging, you need to continue to work in circular motions, getting it deep into the wood surface. Now, another option you could use is to apply a polyurethane coat, typically 2 to 3 coats for optimal protection. And I do believe that this polyurethane is going to give you the best protection from water damage and in high traffic areas. But for our purposes, I think that the wax will do just fine. The last step is to wipe away excess wax with a clean, lint-free cloth. Now you'll want to allow your wax to dry, and then your surface can be left this way for a matte finish. Now if you want it to be very shiny, you can wait 24 hours and buff it to a high sheen. Now it will not be cured and hardened for 5 to 21 days. Okay friends, here is the finished end table, and I'm absolutely in love with how it turned out. I'm so happy with the natural looking wood finish, and I think it's going to complement our family room furniture so well. So let's take a look at a side-by-side comparison, and for me, hands down, I'm loving the newly painted piece. It fits so much better with the aesthetic that I'm going for, and what's even better is that this transformation was free. I already had all the products that I needed to complete this project. You'll definitely have to let me know what you think of the transformation, and also let me know what furniture piece maybe you're thinking about transforming or updating for your home. So here is how the newly transformed end table looks in our space. I'm super happy with the results, and I'm anxious to do the same process on our coffee table. Give me a big thumbs up if you enjoyed this and if it was helpful. Just a reminder, it's getting super close to the start of my Christmas decorating series, so if you're interested in home decor and Christmas decorating ideas, I hope you'll consider subscribing if you haven't already. Thanks so much for watching. I hope to see you back for my next one. Take care and God bless. Bye!